welcome back everybody to another episode of the Rust Belt Outdoors. On this episode, I sat down with a good friend of mine, Cale Kunick. Cale's a great guy. I had a really good conversation, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. All right, Cale. Well, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us
All
a
right.
little bit about yourself.
All right. So yeah, I'm Cale Kunick. I'm 40 years old. I live in Centerville, Pennsylvania, and I live on about 49 acres of property out there.
Yeah, and you guys use that for all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we used to hay it when I was young. That's why actually my dad bought that land. It's because he wanted to teach my brother and I what work was all about. We kind of already thought we knew what work was all about, but we ended up haying. We used to put in 4,000 square bales every summer.
Wow.
Plus, we cut firewood, and my dad put in a pond so we had fish, so we could go fishing and enjoy the recreation aspect of it a lot too. And of course, hunting. Always hunted deer, and then I got into turkey hunting some later.
Yeah.
My dad was never really into that part.
Now we had a pretty exciting hunt here. Was it 2 years ago now?
Yeah,
That was a fun
a
morning.
lot of
Didn't
gobbling.
didn't connect, but it was still a good morning.
Yeah, but yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, and now I know that as Cam's getting older, your son, he's getting out there and he's going out in the woods with you and stuff. And
Yeah, and Cam is in a archery program. I
right,
got him into out at Higley's Archery, and he's doing really, really well. Like nobody can believe how good he does with a recurve.
yeah,
Like this week, for popping a balloon or getting the arrow through a ring, you got more points, like 1,000 points. He scored 5,515
oh,
points,
that's awesome.
which was probably the highest for the week of
Yeah,
anybody in his yardage category. So he loves hunting. He's all excited about it. He's went with me a few times, and it's kind of hard to get him to be quiet
yeah,
because he's 7, but he does enjoy it, and I know he'll be a good hunter.
yeah. I mean, that's one of those things that as he matures with it, he'll start to understand a little better, and especially once he gets to see a harvest and everything,
Yeah,
that'll really pick him up a lot.
it will. It will. Yeah, right now it's like, Daddy, we've been out here an hour. We haven't seen anything. But he'll get there.
Yeah, I
A-
remember those days.
And I know, like he has a natural aim ability. Like he can just eyeball something and just it goes right where he wants it to. So yeah, I know he'll be a good marksman.
Good, that's awesome because
Hmm.
that's a rare trait. It's a lot of people don't get. And I know myself, I struggle with shooting a lot. It takes a
Really?
lot of practice for me to get a good shot in. Yeah, I
Hmm.
spend a lot of time behind my bow to have a
Wow.
good, consistent shot. So that's awesome that he's got that natural talent there.
It is.
Yeah.
And Dave Luce, the guy that put on this program, the founder of it, he's the head instructor. He said he's a natural at that. He said I can just tell he's
Hmm.
got that natural, marksman ability.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It is.
Now I know you guys use your property for a little bit more. You got a pretty good sized barn on there with a couple rabbits in there, maybe
Couple
one or two.
rabbits, yeah, about 100. Right
Yeah.
now it's right about 100, but we run anywhere from 100 to 150 at any given time. When I was younger, we used to have a lot more rabbits, but being working, having a family, all the other commitments, we try to keep it more manageable.
Hmm.
Although 100 to 150 is by most people's
Yeah.
standards not manageable, but we can manage that. So, of course, take about an hour and a half.
Yeah, I think we have 30 right now, and that feels like a lot some nights. So I can't imagine what 100, 150 would feel like,
Yeah,
especially on those nights where you're getting in late and it's like,
I,
don't have a choice. We got to go out and do these chores.
well, this winter's been brutal for that reason
Yeah.
because you got to pound all those ice dishes. Now,
Hmm.
we do have a propane heater, and sometimes we'll put the dishes into like a wire rack and then put the heater beside them. That actually takes longer than just taking a mallet and a bucket and going down the row and just beating them out.
Right.
So that's usually what we do. If you have the time, like if we're going to be doing some other chores like cleaning or breeding or, those types of things,
Hmm.
we'll use the heater so we don't to save our wrists and
Right.
all that. But yeah, so we have the rabbits, and then that's the barn where we used to store the 4,000 square bales in.
Yep.
But now the upstairs is empty in the barn. Um, so we talked about some different things we might want to do with that, but we haven't got there yet. And then we have chickens. We have but they're not in the barn. They're in a coop outside the barn. We have about 15 chickens, mostly laying hens, and then 5 turkeys and 3 ducks.
Yeah.
So that's another little side hobby.
And the turkeys, that's mostly for meat.
No, they're more of a. They're actually an exhibition breed.
Okay.
They're called Royal Palms. They're real pretty. They're black and white.
Okay.
But I enjoy them.
Mhm.
I love the gobble. You
Yeah.
know, there is no better watchdog than a tom turkey.
Yeah.
When anybody breathes on our driveway, one of those males is, you know,
Right.
so that's pretty cool. But we also eat the eggs. The hens lay eggs, just like the chickens and the
Yeah.
ducks. So, in fact, my buddy from Erie came down. He's a real good work friend of mine, John Bamberger. He came down one time and we made he we made breakfast. Like breakfast match before we went hunting. And he was so impressed that we could have scrambled eggs with turkey, duck, and chicken eggs. He just thought that was great.
I mean, that is pretty cool. I can't say that I've ever experienced that
Yeah,
before. We have the ducks, and we do get a couple of duck eggs here and there, and I do enjoy them, but I've never actually eaten a turkey egg.
yeah, and they're different. Like
Yeah.
I mean, an egg's an egg to a degree, but you can tell there's some texture
Mhm.
differences, and like duck eggs are more of a watery consistency, and they go further. Like if you're baking,
Mhm.
one duck egg is to me probably one and a half chicken eggs.
Right.
So but they all taste great.
No, they do. I couldn't if you cooked me a duck egg and cooked me a chicken egg and put them side by side on a plate, I wouldn't be able to tell the
Wouldn't be
difference.
able to.
No.
I can tell the
Yeah.
difference. Yeah, yeah. But I've had enough of them to be able to tell, I guess.
And what kind of rabbits do you guys have?
So we mostly raise Dutch rabbits, which have a real distinct markings. Like they have the blaze on their face, which is like a triangle of white on their face, and then they have the white collar around their neck and white stops on their feet, which is just like a third of the length of their hind foot is white where their
Hmm.
toes are. Um, and so that's the main breed we raise. We have almost all the varieties of that
Yeah.
breed. Then we also have the New Zealand whites, which are more of a meat rabbit.
Right.
And we have the Californians. They're another big pink-eyed white rabbit, but they have the black ears, black nose, black feet, and black tail. But they're also a meat rabbit. And then my son got into English spots, which are more of a running breed. And we've actually sold them to guys who train beagles and hunting
Oh, that's
dogs
cool.
because they're good for that.
Right.
Especially if you get a one that's not good for showing,
Hmm.
it's going to be a good runner.
Right.
So people will buy them for that. And then we have some dwarf papillons, which are a small breed, kind of like your Polish,
Hmm.
but they stand up instead of kind of sitting
Oh,
down.
okay. Yeah, when you're posing them.
Yeah, they pose like a Holland lop,
Gotcha.
but they have short ears. They don't have the lopped ears,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and they're all spotted, or they're supposed to be
Right.
spotted.
Well, yeah. Yes.
Sometimes you get a solid color one.
Hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the rabbits. And like I said, we probably right now about 100 we have, and then we're breeding for Easter, so we'll have a whole bunch more. And
Yeah.
we have 26 or 27 does due the end of, well, it'd be the next, not this week, but next week,
Yep. Yeah, I
due
think
for
ours are
Easter.
due right now. We just put nest boxes in on Friday, so
Gotcha.
any day now for us. Same thing for
Yeah,
Easter. So.
right. This week's gonna be rough though with weather. I
Oh, I
hope.
know. I'm dreading this week with these temperatures, single digits. I'm putting nest box in. Like, oh, this is great. We do have a heat lamp out there because we have a duck in the garage at the moment, and then we have an additional heat lamp that we're probably going to have to turn back on just to be safe. It doesn't do a lot, but it helps way more than you would think.
Right.
So,
That's good.
yeah. Um, and then, so you said that you grew up hunting and fishing and doing all that kind of stuff. And that would
Yeah.
have been you and your brothers at mostly on your guys' property, or were you venturing out into any of the other areas?
Primarily on our property. I did hunt a little bit over at my grandparents'
Hmm.
property, which now my dad does own that property too. But I hunted for deer over there a few times.
Yeah.
But yeah, primarily on our own land. We were really blessed that we owned about 100 acres right there where I lived, and then or live now even. And then my uncle owns almost 400 acres that borders our land, and then my grandma owned another 100 acres that was up the road from my parents' house too.
Yeah.
So we were really blessed with a whole lot of land to hunt on right around there.
And that's absolutely beautiful country out there too. I mean, you got the
Thank you.
nice soft rolling hills of Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
You got a little creek bottom down there on that
Yep.
one side. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, and there was a beaver pond up until last year. They
Yeah.
they blew it up because the beavers had built it up so high it was higher than the road.
Hmm.
So they were concerned. The township was
Yeah.
concerned that they're gonna
Flood
flood
it
the
out.
road,
Yeah. Did
destroy the road.
Do you know if they hired anybody to come in and do any trapping on those?
They kept it real hush hush.
Ah, okay.
So I don't know, but I know
Gotcha.
a couple guys that did trap
Hmm.
beavers, and they trapped a couple out of there, in previous years. But when they went to do that this year and saw that they had damaged the dam, like on purpose,
Right.
there weren't any beavers to be found
That makes
anymore. They
sense.
moved upstream or
Hmm.
something. So
Yeah, I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that once the dam gets destroyed, they typically move on to another area, which
yeah,
is
they
why
did.
they use that as a control method. Which
Right.
makes sense to me. I know.
It does, and you don't want to see the road get destroyed. And it was very obviously much above the road. I'm gonna say when you drive by 10, 15 feet above the road, that you'd see it up there, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh boy,
Oh,
someday
yeah.
this road's gone.
Yeah, you get a good little rainstorm there and wipe it
Yeah,
right out. Yeah.
right.
So no, that makes sense. I get the township's stance on it. Not
Hmm.
necessarily the first thing you want to do, but I understand why they would.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you said you're primarily doing deer hunting. I'm guessing that's basically all rifle for yourself.
No, I do some archery. I have a
Okay.
crossbow.
Okay.
My problem is because of my work, I'm an insurance agent and I do a lot of Medicare.
Hmm.
So in the fall of the year, that's my busy season
All right.
because that coincides with when Medicare open enrollment is, annual enrollment. So that's when I'm busy.
Right.
So it's hard to get out a lot in the archery season, which is a big bummer because I do really enjoy being out in the woods at that time of the year. But I it's real hit or miss whether I
Yep.
get out.
No, I definitely understand that. I mean, you got to work, you got a family to feed,
Right,
so
exactly.
and some things
That's
take the back burner.
Yeah, I always think someday when I retire, but who
Yeah.
knows? You
Well,
know.
that might be sooner than you think. You never
Yeah.
know.
Well, you never know.
Yeah. Um, and then so you do get out during rifle season as much as you can,
Yeah,
right?
rifle is good because that second week of rifle, I my busy season has pretty much petered out.
Yeah.
So I have a lot more time, especially the second week. It it's kind of a bummer though. They moved up rifle right after Thanksgiving, and I'm still real busy right then. So
Hmm.
that hasn't helped me any here in Pennsylvania. But that second week, that's my week. That's
Yeah.
usually when I get something.
And you seeing any type of success out in the field?
Yeah, mostly doe.
Yeah.
I've never had the good fortune of killing a buck yet. I'm admiring your rack over here on the wall. That's a nice looking deer.
Thank you.
But yeah, I haven't had that kind of fortune yet.
Yeah.
I've seen them,
Right.
but not in range.
Yeah. I had that happen a lot where the big ones they tend to just stay right. It's like almost like they know
They
where.
know.
So
They
I
don't
get
get
that.
that big by being stupid.
No, no, they don't.
Yeah.
No. And do you think it looks like Cam might really take up the archery thing? You think he'll be out during
I
archery
really
season?
do. I
Yeah,
really do.
that's awesome.
In fact, right now I'm brainstorming on what I want to do in our woods because, like I said, we own about close to 50 acres, just
Hmm.
shy, and I'd like to get some sort of a stand, like a permanent stand or cabin out there
Hmm.
in the woods, like in the woods, that we could go out to and hunt right from there.
Yeah,
A balcony, a porch. It'd make it a lot easier on me because I'm challenged physically to get out there and walk.
right.
But if I had a place I could go out that's in the woods where the deer are going to naturally be moving through, that would really help out a lot.
Yeah, and for our audience members that don't know you, Kale, you are a little person, so that's
Right.
where the challenges come from with the walking.
Right, exactly. I have dwarfism. I'm a dwarf. That's the technical, medical term.
Right,
In fact, it's the full name is spondioepiphyseal dysplasia. They've shortened that to collagen 2 dwarfism. Basically, the problem I have is it affects my joints. So not the same collagen that makes up your eyes, fingernails, and hair. It's deep tissue
hmm,
collagen that is what connects. It's the connective tissue that connects your joints. So your elbows, your ankles, your knees, even they really watch our necks, our spine, spinal cord. That's a big concern with this type of dwarfism.
right,
Fortunately for me, I haven't had a lot of those issues. Mine's mainly my knees and my hips.
yeah,
Sometimes I've noticed my right ankle as I'm getting older and heavier. My right ankle gives me some fits, but still getting around so far for the
yeah,
most part. But uneven ground's a challenge for me.
right. Which
You
when
know,
you're out in the woods, it's kind of hard to
it's
find even ground.
yeah, exactly. Especially here in Pennsylvania,
Yeah,
we don't live in Ohio
no,
or out in those Midwest states where it's nice and flat.
no,
And then too, you know, um, when you add snow or ice to the mix and you might bust through that snow or ice, I'm prone to falling. I'm top heavy. big shoulders, chest, big belly. So that's not a good thing when you're trying to get around.
No, and then you get those
You know,
roots underneath there, you can't see them, that type of stuff. But I will say, I mean, I've spent a decent amount of time in the woods with you, and from what I see, you don't let it stop you as much as you can.
I try not to. I've always wanted like that's what my dad always said. He's like you always find a way to make it work.
Yeah,
So I've never wanted to let so many people in this world just accept whatever challenge they have as uh you know they can't do something. I've never said I can't. I've never said that. I even try to train my children not to say I can't.
right.
I can't in our house is a swear word.
That's a good.
It's
I like that
I
policy.
tell them you have to do push-ups if you say I can't.
That's a good policy. I like that.
We don't say I can't.
Yeah,
You can.
yeah. Because
If
if you can't, then you're right. You can't because
right,
you set the tone for yourself. So I
exactly.
agree
It's
with
all
that. Yeah,
mental. It's my brother will say that all the time. He's big into sales like me, and he'll say perception is reality.
yeah.
So if you believe you can't, you can't.
No, I agree
So
with
you
that
gotta believe you
completely.
can.
Yeah,
But I do have challenges, and I realize those challenges.
right.
So you just have to figure out a different way. You
Yeah.
might not be able to do it like everybody else, but you do it the best way you can.
Well, I remember that turkey hunt we went on. I mean, we ran across that field.
Yeah,
You know, they
well, I didn't really run,
Well,
but
you were moving though.
yeah,
I mean, you
I
kept,
hoofed it.
yeah.
Yeah,
So we got down in there, and that was my fault. Had I known the train a little better, we probably could have got a bird that morning. But
yeah, we
that's
had some water between us.
yeah, that's how hunting goes sometimes,
Yeah,
especially in a new area. But
that was a beautiful plot there, and it was nice to get the permit there the
yeah,
permission to be able to hunt on that Ernst land.
yeah, that was awesome. That's a great program that Ernst has too, that they do for the hunters in the
Yeah,
area. I've definitely benefited from it myself and had a lot of good times out on their properties.
for
So
sure, for sure.
yeah.
And they're good people too.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've never actually got the chance to meet any of them. I'm
Oh
hoping
yeah,
to, but
I
I've
could
definitely
introduce
heard
you.
that would be phenomenal.
I know Calvin pretty well.
That would be
Yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah, he's a good guy.
So what was it? So was it when you guys moved to where your dad bought the property? Is that what really sparked the outdoors for you?
No, because I was really into hunting when I was young. I
Okay.
started hunting when I was 14.
Okay.
My dad, he was always busy too. He used to haul milk, and he had to haul like every day.
Hmm.
And the only day he could maybe take off was Sunday, which back then you couldn't hunt on Sunday.
Right.
So he didn't have time to take me. He had to haul milk. So my cousin, he's one of my oldest cousins. He's probably close to 60 now, but he would take me out, and I was like 14, I think, when I started. So that's I just really enjoyed it, and he was real good with me and helped me carried my gun if we had to walk through, tall grass or whatever.
Hmm.
And I never actually killed a deer with my cousin Adam. It wasn't until after quit hunting with him and started kind of hunting on my own. I think I was like 17 or 18 when I shot my first doe.
Yeah.
But yeah, then I just once you kill something, once you have a successful hunt, you're hooked.
I
That rush,
I can still picture the scope picture from the first deer that I shot to
yeah,
this day. I can picture the second one too. Those first two deer, and they were both doe. They just
yeah,
and neither one of them were even like a spectacular doe for the area or anything. But I know exactly what you're talking
yep. I can totally agree with you
about.
on
Yeah,
what you just said. I remember the one that I shot at 220 yards.
that's an impressive
Well,
shot.
my dad paced it off, so that's what it was,
Yeah.
and he couldn't believe I got it either. But um, that was with my 243, and I can still picture her in my scope. I could see her entire body and most of her body on either side of the crosshairs,
Yep.
because I only had a 4-power scope on that 243, so to be able to shoot it at 220 yards,
That's impressive.
it was pretty good. It was
Yeah.
pretty good. It was with a scope,
Right.
but
But still,
still,
I mean, a 4 power is next to nothing. I've always had at least a 3x9 on everything that I've ever hunted with.
yeah.
So, yeah, that shot with a 4 power, that's impressive.
Yeah, my brother was impressed. Because he hunted he had a 30-30, and he was sitting beside me when
Yeah.
I shot it.
Well, I know you're a heck of a shot. You've got that. What was it that got in the barn and you got it with the pistol?
Oh yeah, mink.
Yeah.
So out there in the boonies, we got trouble with some of these varmints, and we had some mink that were killing the rabbits. We lost 9 rabbits that one winter to 2 mink, and one I shot in the barn, and the other one we ended up trapping in a conibear trap.
And what was it you shot that with?
A snub nose revolver, 38 special.
Yeah. So anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about on this, that is a tiny gun, and if you've never shot a handgun, hitting a still target at even 20 yards can be a challenge. Let alone a mink that's not very big and
Yeah.
bouncing all over the
Oh, it
place.
was everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's super impressive.
I had to wait until he would stop for a second and shoot.
Right.
And yeah, I got him. My wife said, actually, it's kind of funny. I like to tell this story because I'm not some big, tall, macho guy, you
Hmm.
know. And I'm 4'2", but my wife said I was her hero that night, so she was pretty
Oh, yeah,
impressed.
that's awesome.
Actually, it was morning. It was like 6 in the morning when
Yeah.
I got
I mean, like I said, that's a crazy shot to pull off,
it. Yeah,
especially in a barn where you've got all your rabbits and everything, and you got
yeah,
to worry about that too. And
yeah. And we have like plywood laying against the wall in
mhm,
spots, and there's a hay bale, big round bale now that we use. We peel off of for the rabbits for hay, and there's a lot of obstacles. So,
yeah,
but yeah, it worked out. I was able to get them.
yeah. And you had some success with some groundhogs this
Oh
past
yeah,
summer.
yeah. Not a lot this summer. I think I killed like 8 this year,
Yeah,
but one year I killed 18, so that was one of my better years. When we moved into our house, my dad used to have renters there, and then the house sat empty for like 7 years. We just kept heating the house. So then when my wife and I bought it from my parents, we had a lot of renovations to do to get it up to par.
right.
And of course, I wanted the house to be nice for my new wife, you know.
Hmm.
And we had a lot of groundhogs. We call them woodchucks
Yep.
all around. Like they were rooting underneath the porch, and because nobody lived there for a while,
Right.
so they used it as their burrows and stuff. So I had a lot to shoot that first year, and yeah, I got 18 of them.
And have you guys ever used those for anything after you harvest them?
No, I never have. I kind of feel bad about that.
Hmm.
Honestly, I've heard, you can eat them, especially early in the season. It's kind of, I think it's early in the season. Well, no, maybe it's after they fed on grass. I can't remember how it goes, but we have enough rabbits. We
Right.
raise chickens. We hunt deer. We usually buy a quarter or half of a beef from a customer. One of my insurance clients that
Hmm.
have dairy or beef farms. So we've always had plenty of meat. So like, it's one of those things like, it's just
Yeah.
not something we ventured into
No,
yet.
that makes sense. I know that's something we're gonna try this summer. I want to try and get one. We found a couple of soup recipes, and
Mm.
Mary Ellen's really got big into making soup over the last year or two, and the rabbit soup that she makes is, oh my goodness, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And with those, everybody always says the issue with the woodchuck is they're super tough because they live in a burrow. They're constantly digging, so they
Hmm.
get really tough. But when you cook your soup broth for 24 to 48 hours, sometimes on some of ours
Yeah.
there's no toughness left. So we're kind of excited to actually give that a go this
Yeah.
upcoming summer, or possibly fall, depending on temperatures.
Right.
So
I may have tried it. I used to go to a lot of wild game
hmm.
dinners, like at our church and area churches. So it's very possible that I have eaten
Hmm.
groundhog woodchuck, but I don't specifically remember. But I've always heard from all the guys around that do eat them or have eaten them, get a nice tender one in the spring, like
Yeah,
a young one.
yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
For most cuts, the way you're going to prepare it, that would make sense. Like if you were going to
Yeah.
cook it whole and just bake it or something, yeah, I would want a young tender one versus an
Yeah.
older one.
I had a good headshot this summer, and I said, "Would you guys eat it?" To my wife and the kids, and they're all wrinkling up their nose. So I didn't save it.
Yeah,
If they would have said yes, I was gonna skin it out and go
yeah.
for it.
Next time just skin it out and tell them it's a rabbit. They're not going to be able to
Yeah,
tell
that's
once it's
true.
skinned.
Well, my son saw me shoot it, so he
Well,
knew.
I guess that's fair. Yeah,
But yeah, I'm a pretty honest guy. It's
that's
hard to
true. Yeah.
it's hard to tell them something that's not true.
Mm.
But I'd feel guilty about it later. But yeah, I would try it for sure.
Yeah, like I said, we're definitely going to give it a shot. I'm hoping to get Sophie and Thomas out this summer and get
Yeah,
them woodchuck. I think that's a good way to kind of ease them into that
ease them
kind of
into it.
stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
So because with their situation, they don't get to be here for during deer season and that. So I'm hoping to get them
Yeah.
involved with woodchucks and all that kind of stuff.
Well, you're welcome to come out to our farm and shoot all the woodchucks you want.
I'm going to take you up on that offer
Yeah,
for sure.
especially if you set up down by our pond and you face back,
Yeah.
where we went turkey
Hmm.
hunting this past
Yep,
year.
this past spring.
You'll that's a good spot.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to check that out. So,
Yeah,
yeah, and with
yeah.
all the commotion there, a little bit of movement from the kids shouldn't bother them nearly as much.
No,
So,
it's actually if you set up in the shade, there's a bunk silo up there where they used to store like cow, you know, silage or
hmm.
ensilage. And if you a lot of times if the sun is, if it's afternoon, the sun makes a nice shadow at the end of that, and you can set up in there, and they're not as likely to see, especially
Yeah.
if you wear dark clothing or camo or
Right.
something.
No, that makes a lot of
Be a good
sense.
spot.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to still have to have our orange on, but with the shadow would definitely help out
Well, yeah,
significantly.
okay, yeah, good call.
But
Good call.
yeah. Um, all right, Kale. Well, I want to thank you for coming out and joining
Yeah,
us tonight. So we're
you're
gonna get
welcome.
ready for dinner here. Gonna have some stuffed pork chops, all homemade. So
That sounds great.
Mary Ellen's a phenomenal cook,
I
so
was
we're
just
getting
gonna say that. You took the words right out of
yeah,
my mouth.
we're getting a little spoiled on this. Any closing
Eh,
thoughts?
No, I admire you, Don. I think you're a great guy, and it's nice to do this. This is fun, and it's just cool that you're trying new things and doing learning, and it's just good stuff. Especially great subject too.
Yeah,
And we're blessed to live in Northwest Pennsylvania, where outdoors, recreation, hunting, fishing. I mean, most people, if they don't do it themselves, their brother, their brother-in-law, their dad, their sons, are involved in it. So,
yeah,
or their daughters. You see a lot more women in that too.
yeah.
I know out in Centerville, we have three girls, the Drake girls. They kill the biggest deer around every year.
That's awesome.
Their dad got them hooked, and now that they're married and all doing their own thing, they still are super into it.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, everybody. I just want to give a huge thank you to my buddy Kale. I really appreciate him coming out and sitting down and talking to me. Kale's probably the busiest person that I know, so it means a lot that he was able to make time to do this. It was a great conversation. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And remember, take someone outside.